Welcome to the IT Experience podcast. This is our monthly ITXM Insights episode, where we go through the current developments in the IT Experience Management world. Let's get on with this month's insights. Hello, welcome to this month's ITXM Monthly. So now it's May. Hey Sakari, hey Sami, how are you guys doing?
Hi Pasi. Very good. It's finally summer here in Finland as well, so we are smiling.
Yeah, how's Sakari the life in France?
It's pretty good. It's been a rainy spring, so hopefully that means that there's water on the ground and the summer heat won't be as destructive for nature, but doing good. Enjoying the spring.
Nice. Hey, let's sum up a little bit like what happened in April and so on. So, Sami, you went to the SITS Expo again in London. So how was that? How was the atmosphere?
It was even better than ever before, I would say. I think that was my 7th time in SITS and really enjoyed it again. A lot of good discussions, a lot of kind of good questions coming from the customers and prospects. So I think what we have seen in SITS in these seven years is that the interest in experience management has been increasing all the time, but also the understanding, and that means that people are more advanced. So the questions are more advanced, which is excellent from our perspective, that we have good discussions and also good learnings.
Yeah,
because you get the good ideas from people that are asking something, then you kind of figure it out. Okay, and I think we had 7 or 8 people in from our team there, so it's an excellent time to really discuss with customers and prospects together to get a good understanding. Yeah. And I had a good enjoyed the presentation with Gea. John Brown was presenting with me, and it was a almost full house presentation, and quite a enjoy always presenting with Sean. He's a great guy.
Yeah. Nice. And I heard that you made some quote about agent motivation that kind of got some life on its own.
Sometimes it's interesting. I have said that same quote maybe 7, 8 times in different presentations, but this time it took off in the online discussions. But what I was talking about is about what the SLI metrics feel for agent. Because if you are using the traditional SLA metrics, you are measuring how many tickets employees are resolving per hour or per day. What that feels for the agent is that how fast they get rid of their customers is what you measure. But then when you start to focus on the experience, you start to measure how these same agents help people. And that really changes how they feel about their work. And I think that is kind of a good example of what happens when you start to focus on experience. And I think that happens in all levels of IT, because it's much motivating to work with how you help people or how you make others more efficient than just measuring how efficient yourself, how efficient the IT is, and so on.
Yeah.
I think that is very related to the topic of today. So cool. Watermelon. So
yeah, and hey, maybe there's some other news on the company itself, so do you want to talk about that a bit?
Yeah. I think just underlining that also there is kind of a big belief in the investor side in this kind of stuff. So we did get a big 12 million investment to Happy Signals to increase our global footprint and also make an even better product. So I think that was of course huge news for the company, but huge news also for customers, and now we are able to serve our customers and prospects even better in the future.
Yeah, and I think probably for the US listeners, I think probably the thing is that we can have more US presence. So probably starting with the Orlando event in the end of the year. Now you will see the pink stand there as well, like in SITS that we're used to. So really happy about that as well. So nice. And then hey, there was also a one online event that our Mark Buick did. So Mark did a session with SDI, why Human-Centric IT Experience Management. And if you want to listen to that, it's on our learning center on our website as well. It's good to have Mark with us as well, and yet another person that actually has a lot of experience, practical experience doing this as a customer. So yeah. All right, but that kind of also leads us to the topic of today, which is the watermelon effect. So we actually at SITS, we had those small watermelon balls now this year that to give away for your take home with your kids and so on.
I did take 2 of them home, and I haven't seen them since.
Yes.
Took them. Yeah.
Exactly. And maybe a short explanation. So I think people might know. Okay, that's the watermelon. Why are we still talking about the watermelon? But there's a lot of aspects to it. So do you guys want to talk a little bit about watermelon? Why is it still, how people feel about it? What is it then? Why is it important?
I think still there are a lot of organizations that this is a new metaphor for a thing that they kind of recognize themselves, and we have not invented this one. We found it somewhere, somebody else was using it before in IT, but I think we have been using it for several years already because it's a good kind of way of describing what is going on if you use the traditional metrics.
Yeah.
And if I shortly explain it, so if there is any listeners that haven't heard what this means, is that if you are using the traditional SLAs, it is relevantly easy to get them on a green if you just optimize those. But it doesn't mean that the people would be happy with the services. So kind of outside looking should be everything okay, it's green, but still employees are not happy with the services. So that's why the red inside, the feeling of not IT understanding us and not doing decisions on the basis of their needs.
I think a common question then is that will XLA solve the watermelon effect? Sakari, what do you say?
XLAs can solve, but an important thing is that, as Sami was talking about the end users, are they happy with it? So you really need to be focusing on the humans. And since XLAs became more and more popular over the last few years, there's been different implementations of XLAs. And what Gartner found in an article and in a report that they wrote a few months ago, they found that often in, for example, outsourced service contracts, when XLAs are introduced, they're actually just renamed SLAs. So SLAs get renamed as XLAs. And in that case, as Gartner also found, they lead to disappointment and they don't do what they're supposed to do. So XLAs can solve the watermelon, but they still need to be human-centric in order for that to happen.
Yeah. So it has to be really measuring the end user experience and also productivity. Because I think, Pasi, if I understand right, you will be showing some practical examples on that one later on in this webinar. But really, the thing is that SLAs are measuring how we work in IT. It is just measuring how efficient we are and are things working, are they up and running? But just that isn't enough anymore.
Yeah.
But you really have to focus on how people feel and are we making them efficient. And one thing I nowadays want to always underline is we in IT, we exist to help the others to be efficient and happy. We are not generating revenue for the enterprise.
Yeah.
Or maybe some of the services we are implementing in some cases, yes, but very rarely. So our task is help the others. So we should be focusing on metrics, should be focusing on the value we create, and that is the XLAs if they are defined in the experience area, and not just remaining.
And I think this is about the article, the blog post that you wrote, Death by Watermelon. So I would recommend people to go and read that because it kind of goes deeper into what you just said.
That is true, and it's also kind of one of the key points in this article is I think, Sakari, this is one of your favorites of our benchmark, that 12% of all tickets are causing 80% of the lost time.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the things that really is something that you need to solve the watermelon. Because if you are only looking at from one perspective, you are not seeing what are the cases that people really get frustrated. Traditional SLAs kind of hide those exceptions because you still meet the high level average targets. But when something goes wrong, it goes typically wrong very badly. And that's why the reputation of IT, that red inside the watermelon, stays, because people are so frustrated about those important cases for them. So IT has to understand what is important for the end user from their efficiency perspective. And that is the kind of, from my perspective, main cause of the watermelon.
Yeah.
Sometimes people might be even happy in the service from agent to employee, but still there is a watermelon because they are losing time.
Yeah. Okay. And another aspect of this watermelon was the old metrics, and we have a guest blog post by Roy Atkinson talking about lessons from old school metrics, the limits of utilization. So go and check that out. It's also very interesting. Anything you want to say, Sakari or Sami, about the article, or shall we just have the listeners to go and read it then?
No, I think it's one of the points that Roy Atkinson makes in the article is aligns nicely with what Sami just said, that IT is there to help people. One of the things that Roy says is that the support functions of IT are not there to boost their own profiles and justify their own existence. They are there to ensure smooth operations of the entire organization. So the same idea is said in a different way, but just that are your end users feeling that they are getting helped by IT or not? That is the key.
Okay.
So and if somebody in the audience doesn't know who Roy is, just get to know him, read his blogs and follow him in LinkedIn. He's a great influencer of the whole IT industry. So
yeah,
I've had the privilege to meet him face to face a couple of times, and I love that guy.
Yeah, and hey, before we go to also show a little bit practically, but we also have a new blog post about practical tips for addressing the watermelon. So go check that out. But I think for this podcast and also for the listeners, this is also shared in YouTube in a video format. And what we are next about to go see is that if you have experience data, how can you actually use that in the tool to expose the watermelon? So let's have an example. So here I have incidents and the experience of end users in those in a Acme corporation as we usually do in demos. And there are certain things. So we can go and check out, for example, these very traditional metrics, which is like time to resolve. And we see here that, hey, most of these tickets are resolved in 1 day. Like, awesome. This is like a process metric that the process metric measurement is showing that they are solved in a day. When I click on that one, then I can actually drill down to what people are saying, that how much they are losing time. And there are a lot of people here explaining that we actually lost from 2 to 5 days of work time because of this thing. So how can this be? So yeah, when you click on that and you start to see that where is this happening, just the happiness might not be enough. But when you actually switch to the lost productivity, you can start to identify that, look, in Acme production, people are losing a lot of time. Clicking on that one starts to show that it actually is user support service. And if we go down, we can say that this service is provided by vendor C and your internal service desk. And looks like the service is related to it is Salesforce. So now you started from people where they are frustrated, where they are losing time, and you identify that it's Salesforce. Now IT will definitely know how to fix that, and most likely they even know what the problem is in that group of users. They can address that and then explain to the business side, look, we saved you this much time, we fixed this problem, and this was the thing. Even though people were kind of maybe not complaining too much, maybe they had already got used to it, that it's always like that. And now if you suddenly fix that and be proactive, you will make your colleagues very happy. This of course seems like you do need to do a lot of clicking on the tool, but what we actually made also in the tool is kind of like this Where's Wally feature. I mean, at least I bought those books from London Airport to my kids. I don't know, you guys know that as well. So what we have here is a hotspot thing, what we say. And this is built to actually expose watermelons. So first I'm looking at here, okay, looks like, there's not that much red anywhere. But when I click on the lost time, then it highlights the exact thing that I found with multiple clicks. Look, it's user support in the Acme production. So this is why it's really important that you have experience data. You understand where people are not just being unhappy or where they're not unsatisfied, but where they're actually saying that they're losing productivity. So anything to comment on this example, guys?
Yeah, I think just is a good example, and I think we have been working with Sakari quite heavily on the benchmark reports on looking into how different the lost time is in different services and different areas. I think that is one of the things, and also we compared ones like the MTTR to the lost time, and it really reveals that you shouldn't be only focusing on the averages. So sometimes even tickets are open quite a short time. Depending on the service, what it's about, you might be losing much more time than the ticket was even open. And in some other cases, ticket can be open 5 days and there is no lost time.
Exactly.
So that is just the thing that IT has to understand throughout the end user's eyes. What are the services that should be prioritized? And I think this is something that the SLAs are hiding quite heavily.
Yeah.
Because they are
Because if
just average.
IT is deciding how long this ticket should be open, it's not really considering the end users.
Exactly, and typically it is just, and then if IT do prioritize the ticket by type, then it's again, IT is thinking that, okay, it might be that one that is important. But if you look at this, unless we have these 100 services, the lost time per those services is this high, we should for sure prioritize those.
Yeah.
And so on. But it's a step-by-step approach with our customers that you first get the data and then start to get the understanding.
Then kind of leading into customers. So Sakari, you have some customer examples that how customers have been, tackling the watermelon. So first is Alhstrom case. So something you want to say about this?
Alhstrom has been a customer of ours for a few years already. And what they did is that they implemented experience level targets into the agreements with the new IT providers. And they also created practices around looking at the data, because just having the data available isn't going to make a difference. It has to be used. And they have monthly meetings where all the key IT stakeholders are present. They look at the data and they identify and they expose watermelons on a regular basis. It's not a project. It's not something you crack the watermelon once and then it's done and then you can move to the next thing. It's something that you need to do on a regular basis, because people will be happy or unhappy with IT services depending on what their circumstances are. So they are very regular, very systematic in what they're doing, and they have been able to achieve great results with that.
Nice. Then we have another customer, Campari Group, which was actually presenting this in our ITXM Summit, and you can find the recordings of the things here. So Chris Facey was talking about their watermelon thing. So what was that, Sakari, about?
Yeah, so Campari has been going through this journey, and one of the aspects that they were talking about was this MTTR that we were looking at before, and looking at SLA metrics. And what they did is that they discovered that there was lost time in a surprisingly high amount on specific P3 and P4 incidents. And what they did is that they drilled into looking at what those tickets were, and then started improving those. And by looking at then the perceived lost time by the end user, so the experience metric, they were able to show to the business that we are improving these tickets and we're making a difference. And that was one aspect. They also did similar things where they combined different data sources in order to understand how they can improve meeting room equipment and laptops and so forth. Really, anyone who is interested, especially in understanding how watermelons, experience management, and digital experience relate to another, then look at that Chris Facey interview. It's 25 minutes. It will be very informative.
Yeah, perfect. And then lastly, one of our oldest customers, so Cargotec.
And Cargotec is a good example. They have also been very systematic in using the data and been able to expose the watermelon. And for them too, it's about how can we do this on a continual basis and in a way that we can create that process around experience management. They've been around for a long time, and there's a good customer case just highlighting that experience goes up and down, and it's not always very dynamic, but you do expose the watermelons, and that leads to stability and good experiences over time.
Yeah. So maybe to summarize this, so Sami, how do you start tackling the watermelon?
Yeah, it's kind of I'm living with a lady that is the only person in the world that in real life doesn't like watermelon. But it's of course we are helping companies to kill the watermelon. So just guys start to measure and then crack it piece by piece. I was at some point thinking that should be say that we are eating it piece by piece, but kind of then the employees, the red one is empty in the end. So maybe that's not the right metaphor of it. But it's step-by-step approach is what I recommend for the.
And what you mean about measuring is start measuring human-centric side of it. Yeah. And if you want to share this message and you kind of want to learn more, like how can I communicate this internally or to my colleagues, then we have on our website this Human-Centric IT webinar. It's 25 minutes. We go through it calmly, and it's something that you can, it's freely available there. Don't have to register. You just go and watch it and share it with your colleagues. So take use of that one as well. Hey guys, any last words on this month's ITXM Insights?
No, nothing comes to mind. I think this was a really good. We covered this.
And we are done.
We are done. Yeah.
More
I think what we
smiles.
are waiting very heavily is our Happy User Group Hug event in about a month from now on.
Sure.
I think we will have a lot of new ideas and good discussion with customers and learnings from there. So
Yeah. I think on the coming episodes we'll share the interesting discussions that we'll have with the customers. So I think there's like tens of customers coming together in Helsinki and talking about these experience-related topics.
it will be a great experience.
On that, I think it's time to end this month's episode. So as we usually do it, so stay safe and stay happy. Hope you enjoyed this month's ITXM Insights. This is available as an audio podcast through our YouTube channel and also as a newsletter. If you haven't yet registered, please go to happysignals.com/ITXM Insights.